Welcome to the Week 7 preview. So excited to have Mr. William Carroll here joining us today. I'm going to bring him right in. We started a little later than I anticipated. William.
How are we doing, Mark?
Great. Sorry for the delay there. I can't see you just yet.
Oh, hold on a second. Sorry.
It's okay.
There we go.
Oh, there he is. Another man in pink. I love to see it, Will.
It was. I debated with Amy with what shirt to wear. The next one, I've got another good shirt.
That's great. No, it's funny. Does my jacket look a little wild to you? On my screen, it looks like it's a little crazy.
Not bad. I mean, it's hard to tell the color of it. Does that have pink and blue in it?
It does, yes. Like when I look at it, it doesn't even look straight. Oh, no, Will, I don't know if you could hear the Eric Church playing when I came on, but I felt it was only fitting.
Yeah, it's good. Yep.
What is the drink in your hand right now?
I worked late last night, just a Diet Pepsi to get the engine going.
Okay, well, very good. So I wanted to give the league, obviously, you've come out to a roaring start, far greater than your Cowboys so far this year and the rest of the NFC East. Why don't you tell a little bit about your background in fantasy sports and how long you've been playing?
Started fantasy football. The league that you're in with me now started like 98 in high school with kind of a core group of guys, a couple of guys you've met, a couple of guys you haven't met. And that's evolved over the course of the years. But yeah, we've been doing it for over 20 years now. And guys are all over the country. And so I've pretty much only done Yahoo traditional style fantasy football for the last, lots of years. And so this year is the first year that I've ever done the auction style, which, I talked to you about. It's like a very different thing. And I was, not apprehensive, but just kind of like, oh, this is going to be very new. It's going to be a learning experience. I'm probably not going to do very well. And I'm happy with how everything's gone so far. It's definitely eye-opening, some of the strategy and the drafting and everything like that. So picked it up pretty quickly, which is cool. So yeah, first time doing ESPN too. So it's a little bit different using a different platform. I know you're in my league too. So it's weird going between the two each week and in the setups for each one of them and in the research. Learning how to manipulate stuff and find stuff to make the information easier to gather. But it's been really cool so far. Seems like it's a very active group, which I like. My league, people have known each other for a long time. It's not super active in terms of communication and stuff. Maybe if I'm playing someone, I'll usually talk to them or text them or whatever. But there's not as much group communication as there is in this league, which is cool. It's a very cool thing.
Yeah, it's been great, and it's evolved over the years, and I feel like we really settled in with a great group. I too did my research, Will. Now again, you said you played Yahoo forever, so your lifetime record, from what I can see, is 370, 290, and 2. So a 56% winning percentage, which is nothing to sneeze at for sure.
Only one league championship in that league. It is, as much as we might not talk with each other, it is very competitive year in and year out. You and I actually have a big matchup next week. I've started off to a pretty roaring start in that other league, and looking to have a couple game lead after taking down Jesse this weekend, hopefully. So that league is competitive, even though we don't talk as much. But yeah, and then this league is obviously ultra competitive. It's cool to see Sean finally get a win. Get out of the basement, still in the basement, but get off the schneid. And but every week, any given team can win, just like NFL, any given Sunday. So
yeah, and we talked about it last week with Bad Array. It's I think when we first started the league, we had 6 teams make the playoffs. I think we went down to 10 teams and went to 4, and it's become really tough to get into the playoffs. And as you've seen this year, I mean, right now I'm looking at the total record after 6 weeks. You're the third. You've been the third best performer. 32-22 as a total record against the league, but you have not yet received your first KOP. What's the closest you've come on the KOP front?
I mean, a couple of weeks ago, I played batter, and this past week, I was worried that I was going to. I've been leaving points on the board, unfortunately. and lost to him. And I think he brought it up in the video from last week. He fully expected to lose, and no one put up the points. It's finding the right mix. I have my group of flex / wide receiver / running backs. It's like any given week, it's hard to determine who do I want to play. They're all, projected somewhere between 14 and 18 points. And it's just like the crapshoot of playing every week. So I've been up there. I've been surprised by how well my team's done so far. It's because it was kind of a bit of a toss up when I did the draft. I didn't know what to expect, and learning the points values for a different league is very interesting too. What's valued and what's not valued. And so sometimes people put up performances. I'm like, oh, that's not really nothing special, but then all of a sudden it's like a 20-point day.
Right.
Which it's just huge, 20-point days are monstrous. And so that's been the biggest learning curve for me is the different point structure from what we have in the other league. So
some of the feedback I've gotten from people the first time they've jumped into an auction is how shocked they were about the price point at which some players went for. And I know we talked about it a little bit before. Is there anything that you'd say you've learned from year one that you would carry into year two that maybe you weren't so sure of going in initially?
The biggest thing is like the league that we do, the other league we do, points per reception. We've done before in the past. We haven't done the last couple of years. We're going to bring it back next year. And that's obviously a huge part. Finding players, running backs that catch the ball a lot is huge. And then that's probably the biggest thing. It's weird, like quarterbacks, like I got Rodgers very late, but he started most of my games for me.
Uh-huh.
It bit me last week. Almost, I thought I was going to lose because he had such a bad game, and I had Watson on the bench for a ton of points, and that's been a bit of a toss up each week for me too, because Rodgers has been on such a roll to start the season, and then laid out that stinker last week. So, but yeah, just getting comfortable with the points and the way that people score points has been the biggest thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned this week, I'm just trying to pull up so this is interesting. So you're playing Philly, who's also been a great team, but I wanted to touch quickly because I love, you're always very clever with the things that you do. And obviously the fried dough to go is kind of an inside joke that goes back, probably, I don't know. How long would that be? 25 years, probably, maybe
95, 96, somewhere. Yeah, so 24, 25
well,
years
let's see.
ago.
I think Mark Black-Wells was running for election because I know Paddington Bear was voting for him. So I think that was 96, maybe 93. Tell the folks a little bit what your recollection of Pride Dough to Go is.
So every year, I don't know, it was probably 3 or 4 years straight. Usually me and my sister would come and stay at your dad's place for a week or two over the summer, go to basketball camp. Sean's dad, Kevin, his basketball camp in Malone. I think it was 4 or 5 years that we did it. And and Red would come down to my mom and dad's place and go to hockey camp for a couple of weeks, like at a different part of the summer. So yeah, go every year. And usually it was the same week as the Franklin County Fair. So basketball camp during the day, and Malone County Fair most nights for a country concert or a throwback. We were actually just at dinner the other night, Amy and I, and America came on, and I did music trivia, and I was like, I've actually seen these guys at the Franklin County Fair.
Wow, that's awesome.
So yeah. And then take in the rides, especially the Gravitron and bumper cars, of course, a couple times a night. Orangeade or limeade, and then fried dough, and got to have one for the road. Obviously, it's a bit of a drive back from Malone back to the fort, and
the resort city, as they call it.
You got to have a snack for the ride, so get a fried dough to go.
Oh no, those were great memories, and it was always something I look forward to each summer. But you're playing, and I remember Patrick obviously was one that came up, another league member. He was at the basketball camp, and he was a big fan of the fried dough as well. So you're playing his brother-in-law Joe, Mary Ellen's husband, this week. Philly, I believe he's right up there with record too. And I apologize for having to go back and forth here, Will.
I'm looking at my phone too. You're good.
Yep. So Joe is. He's currently in 6th place as far as the total record, 28 and 26, but he does have a king of points. In fact, I think he has the best performing week so far this season. When you take a look at your matchup, obviously he got off to, I don't know if you'd want to call it a slow start, but he has one player already in with 12.3 points. How do you look at this? Of course, Josh Allen has the Jets today, which is unfortunate for you. But give me your thoughts on the matchup as you see it heading into Week 7 here on Sunday.
So like I was saying before, my big debate is wideouts. Heading into the season, having Amari Cooper and the potential that I thought that Dallas offense had, and then CeeDee Lamb was a late pickup, but obviously talented in college. But now I've got them both on the bench this week. I don't know really what to expect from Andy Dalton from week to week. Sorry for my daughter in the background. She's
no, that's fine.
Making the noise. But so I have them both on the bench. I have Will Fuller on the bench as well because Metcalf, I feel, is unstoppable lately. And Claypool, I just picked up a couple weeks ago. Seems like every year Pittsburgh's able to get a new number 1 wideout or number 2 wideout in the draft. And he's been great the last couple of weeks. And I think that Tennessee game could be a shootout. I think there's a lot of points available on the board. So that was my big debate going into it. Obviously, I don't like Josh Allen going against the Jets, except for our other league where Allen is my starting quarterback. So
that's always tough.
That's a bit of the rub with playing in a couple leagues is you're rooting for one guy in one league and rooting against him in another league. So I'm curious to see what Le'Veon Bell will do against Denver, how many carries he'll end up getting. I don't know what he's actually projected for 8.8 points. And that, he could be a guy that scores 30 points. He could get, 3 touchdowns just randomly getting goal line carries or something like that. So that's a bit of a worry. He could also put up a stinker, it's his first game for them. So I like my chances going into it, but honestly, week to week, you just never know what's going to happen at all.
Yeah, and I liked what Philly did. Obviously, he had Aaron Jones, who's been great so far this year, the 5th rated running backs, and he positioned himself well. He's got Jamal Williams in there as Aaron Jones is off today, and he's been hit by the injury bug as well. Nick Chubb is still out. Let's see. Diggs has been great for Buffalo, so he's got that connection there, which is fantastic. And he also has Chris Godwin, which I'm interested. I know he's not playing this week, but with the new addition in Tampa Bay, how do you think that's going to affect the receiving core there?
I haven't had the chance to watch much of Tampa play at all yet this year. You look at them on paper, and the weapons are incredible. And so it's a matter of, can Brady stay durable through the entire year? Gronk got off to a really slow start, which surprised me. In our other league, I have him, and I had kind of high expectations. I got him. I thought I stole him later in the draft, and then he started out slow, and finally had a good week last week. But like on paper, they look incredible. But paper champs or paper chumps, you know what I mean? Who knows?
Oh, for sure.
Out, So I think KC is the team to beat. Obviously, they can drop 3 touchdowns in no time flat and be getting buried, and all of a sudden they're in the game. So they're obviously the team to beat. But yeah, Tampa's. I really want to get the chance to actually sit down and watch them play for a game and really kind of digest that. But they look very impressive last week.
Now I know you're in the restaurant industry and more specifically the sports bar industry. So I imagine are you working a lot of the time, say on the Thursday night games or Monday night games, or not typically?
Usually Thursday nights I work, and usually most Sundays I work during the day. Usually once or twice a month I'll have it off. It really does. It can vary quite a bit. But yeah, usually most Thursday nights I work. And the Thursday night games are the biggest toss up. You can get a lot of bad football those weeks, but and then Mondays I usually work during the day. I'm usually able to watch Monday Night Football and kind of get caught up a little bit. So it's been an odd year, obviously, with everything going on. Takeout's obviously a big part of the business. There's a lot of places are 50% capacity, and a lot of people, even with basketball, as good as basketball was coming down in the end, like it didn't really feel real without the fans there. You know what I mean? Yeah. And football's starting to get a little bit. There are some places that have the fans, but it's a very odd season.
Yeah, and you two are at 50% capacity or no?
Yeah. You
are? Okay. So let's see. So we're six weeks in. We have a 14-week regular season. So this is basically coming up on the halfway point. We still have 7 teams. I would say 8 teams that realistically have a spot at the playoffs. you 8 teams over 900 points scored. In fact, 8 teams over 950, and then you have the two cellar dwellers in Team Irrelevance, who I think, as you've seen on the thread, and maybe he's reached out to you personally, he's in fire sale mode for sure. Sean is I don't know if he's in fire sale mode, but he's I think looking to next year.
He's here for a good time. He's here for a good time.
And that's part of the risk, Will, too. Like you talk about your first year in the auction and that flexibility that you have, and you'll see it here as we get closer to the playoffs and, or more importantly, the trade deadline. Is Sean kind of was in a position where he went all in last year to try to go for that title, and obviously that's had a negative impact on his team today as he's far below. I don't know how to phrase this question properly, but given where you stand and obviously a lot of things, what do you think would need to happen for you to look to next year?
That's another thing. So the league that we don't do the keeper. And so that's an interesting part of that. Was probably the other thing that I was most unsure of heading into the league this season, picking up a roster that I obviously didn't have on my own, and talked to Red quite a bit. He was actually a huge help. Like, hey, well, like if you, based on you having been in this league before, who would you suggest as keepers, and the dollar values and stuff like that. So that's probably the biggest rub. Like got CD Lamb for a good price. I think that he'd be someone that could be on the team for a long time. You could have him on the roster for 3 or 4 years. One of my keepers is out for the year. Sutton is out for the year, and he was another low dollar guy that had a lot of potential. After a great year last year, and it's like, okay, he's just on the IR for the rest of this year. So that's the biggest thing kind of looking forward, is who are those people that you keep that can be cornerstones of your team for, 4 or 5 year run. So heading into this year, I think it really is going, for me personally, looking at it, is making those decisions week to week. Am I starting the right people to win these games? Because I'm playing batter a couple weeks ago. If I make one swap for a different wideout, I win that matchup, and I'm up in the stand. You know what I mean? And it's those little, it's the inches, it's the small decisions that make the difference a lot of the time.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. I think there was 3-4 teams that were within a couple points of the best week of everybody. And I look at it right now. Obviously, you have the 3 teams with over 1,000 points scored. You have the Arizona Horned Frogs, who came into the auction with the most money. Rick was a bit critical of his draft strategy, and I was too, to a certain extent. I'm not going for one of the big dogs, but then the 2 big dogs go out with major injuries, and all of a sudden he looks pretty smart. So you have him, Big John's little pals, BJ Varon, who he was not an original member, and it's nice to see him up there doing his thing. And then Red, who 2 years ago was very dominant, only to lose, I believe, in the final. But then you look at the next 3. So you have yourself, Rido to go, the process, and myself. And then you look at the gap. It's basically a 3-point difference in the total points scored for the year. Philly has scored more than the 3 of us, and they're now at 2 and 4. But the interesting thing with them is they've been hit with those injuries. So I think, as much as I don't want to dismiss Joe's chances, he got a lot of those points early, and he needs to have some of those guys to come back in order to compete for that final playoff spot.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it is crazy to look at the points for and the points against. It's all the parity in this league is pretty incredible. Those top 8 teams, any one of those top 8 could be in the final 4. Like you said, we're at the halfway point, and it's that tight. And so the next few weeks will definitely separate the men and the boys to determine who's going for the title. Yeah.
And you mentioned the tough spot you're in as far as who to play each week, and I think that going into it, my team was all in on my starters, with not a lot happening with my bench, and that's obviously a very risky proposition. I've battled injuries as well. Lamar Jackson's missed time, Miles Sanders has missed time, Dalvin Cook obviously has missed time, and that's put me in a really tough spot. Like I played Devonta Freeman this past week. 1.4 points. So I was kind of all in with the starters, and now I'm really struggling. I tried to strike a deal with Sean last week to get some support there. But even in Minnesota, I think Boone ended up getting more touches than was anticipated last week. So it's become a situation where every single move could be the difference between a win and a loss.
Yeah. I actually had a trade offer from Pat this week. And he was looking to get rid of Beckham because he was sick of the roller coaster with Beckham, and I'm not interested in that roller coaster at all. So try to work out a different deal with him, send him back a different proposal. I mean, I think that there's definitely deals to be made for people. That's another thing that can really separate you from the pack over the course of the next 3 or 4 weeks. Just depending on, you can make a swap and the next week that guy could be out for 6 weeks. So like those small decisions like, oh yeah, this could benefit the team, and then all of a sudden you're like, what the hell did I just do? So that could be a big part of the next 3-4 weeks before we head into playoff time.
Absolutely. Let's take another look at a couple matchups here. Let's see what else is fairly relevant. I mean, I'm a fairly big underdog this week to Big John's Little Pals, which is good for you. The other your matchup, I guess. And you're actually, this is one of the first weeks, and obviously these projections are just projections, as you know, but this is one of the first weeks where I've seen there aren't a lot of closely.
Not quite as tight, yeah.
Yeah. Obviously the process, maybe what I should do is the process is playing Arizona Horned Frogs. He's a 30 point underdog. So Will, you're in a pretty good spot here to put a little cushion between me, Pat, and Joe, especially you're beating Joe this week. And if these matchups go as planned, you're going to have, I think, a 2-game lead, or at least a 1-game lead on, I think it's 2-game, right? Let's see. Yeah, you're 4-2, and so you'd go to 5-2. We'd go to 3-4. So you'd have a 2-game lead on that 4 spot.
What's Red's projection like? I'd like to see Red lose as well.
And Red's playing
team irrelevance. Yeah, I mean, obviously anything can happen. So let's see here. Gio Bernard, just looking through Red's matchups. Love you, Red, but love to see you go down as well this week. That'd be crazy to see Red lose to both cellar dwellers.
And I want to pull up, if I can here, your remaining schedule, because I think that'll be kind of interesting to see is who have you played Sean yet?
No. Yeah, week 1. Yeah, week 2. I lost to Red in week 1, and then if I had made better decisions, I'd be on a 5-game winning streak, but lost a batter a couple weeks ago. So I've got Pat next week, Big John's Little Pals, and then Red again back through the beginning of the schedule. So it's
wow. So the next 2 weeks you have that's a really tough schedule.
Yeah, I have 2 weeks in a row. I play Sean and play Eric, and then play you week 13 and batter again week 14. So yeah, it's a tough slate ahead. But if you look at, I was looking at it the other day, they have projections for the final standing projections. I don't know if you've ever looked at or look into that at all. I'm actually currently projected to finish second in the league. I mean, it's all projections. It's I don't take it that seriously. It's cool to look at. It's the same as when you do the draft and it projects, who won the draft. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's just best estimate, obviously. So I'd love to have it turn out that way, but I have to play the games.
Absolutely. Now take a listen to this, Will. So here's my upcoming schedule. So I've got Big John's Little Pals today, Red, but then I get Sean, Eric, Smuts Nuts, and then I finish out against the Arizona Horned Frogs, Fried Dough to Go, as you said, and Philly. So I have that I have 3 games in a row against currently the 3 lowest ranked teams, but then I finish out with those 3 tough matchups. So it's going to
come down to the wire. It's going to come down to the wire.
And while we're at it, why not just look at the process? Let's see what he's got. Okay, so Fried Dough to Go this week, obviously you, Philly, Smuts Nuts, Big John's Little Pals, Red, and then he finishes with he's back and Team Irrelevance. Ooh, Will, you got to win these games, man. You got to win those the must wins. You got to win.
The scheduling gods are looking out for you, Pat Wells.
Oh my God! And did you? I went on that Thursday night thing. Did you watch any of the Giants Philadelphia Eagles game this past Thursday?
I didn't. I was working and wasn't that interested in. I usually try to keep an eye on it while I work, but wasn't crazy interested in it at all. Obviously, I mean, whoever wins the NFC East, got to be the crazy thing if a 6-10 team wins and then somehow irks out a victory with the home playoff game. But the one thing that I did see and saw a lot afterwards was the Daniel Jones, the Danny Dimes trip and fall, and different memes and stuff like that. And like the first thing I thought was like, I looked it up, like, did they score a touchdown on the drive? Because that would have been brutal. And like,
I know.
Fortunately, they did.
Yesterday.
But yeah, I didn't get this, and I saw, Philly did come back with kind of a late push in the game to come back and win. The Giants were actually looking pretty good shape in the fourth quarter, but I didn't get to watch a lot of the game. That's the downfall being a big NFL fan, but working in the industry that I do. It's rare that I get to watch a ton of games. I'll see bits and pieces here and there. But I know here and there, if I get to watch the Cowboys play, I will. But I mean, at the Arizona game a couple weeks ago, halftime, I turned it off. I couldn't watch anymore. It was so pitiful. And so, I mean, I know they're not going to do anything this year. That's the upsetting thing. There's so much potential coming in the year, and you get excited every year, and it's like, no, my team sucks. Like, this is not fun to watch at all. I'm not getting enjoyment and getting frustrated, and it's just not worth it. So,
what do you think happens with Dak?
I think that the initial contract offer, I think that's probably what gets posed to him, the one that he turned down. Whatever it was, 35 a year, I think that's probably what gets posed by Jerry Jones to him. I think that's probably a reasonable thing. So hopefully that, I mean, I like what he's done, and he put up great numbers to begin the year, but you can't get Mahomes and Rodgers money until you have won a championship, as far as I'm concerned. You know what I mean? He's definitely worth a good payday, but to be saying I'm worth $40 million, like, let's get a ring first.
No, for sure. We'll wrap this up in just a moment. I just want to take a quick look at Reds here. Oh yeah, this is actually interesting too for Red. So you were mentioning Red losing this week. Red does not play, and I hate to keep beating him up here, but he does not play Rick, and he does not play Sean the rest of the way.
So he may have the toughest schedule of anyone heading down.
Yeah, well, I take that back. He's currently playing Rick this week. But beyond that, he's got me, Horned Frogs, you, Joe, Philly, The Process, and then Big John's Little Pals, but finishes out against Smuts Nuts. So he's got, I mean, we didn't look at every team's schedule, but that's pretty tough.
Yeah, that's a tough go of it, for sure. Yeah.
Now, I do have a question for you, Will. This is somewhat football related, but a little bit different. So, like, we talked when I saw you over the summer about if there's certain spots that I like to hit up when I'm home, as far as food from a nostalgic standpoint. So, my question for you is, do you have a traditional or a favorite game day food? And I ask that as someone who's visiting home in Potsdam, New York, and also where you live now.
Usually Sundays here, if I'm off, we'll do something in the crock pot. Amy will do like prep for the upcoming week, but we'll do something to eat Sunday night, and then she can have going in the week. So we'll do some sort of chicken in the crock pot, speedy chicken. I don't know if anyone familiar with that from Binghamton area.
Yep.
Something along those lines, or we'll do something she can eat during the week, like a meatloaf or something like that. So that's when I'm done on this call, I'm going to go to the grocery store and get prepped for the week and everything. So that's usually what we'll do if I'm off on a Sunday. If I work Sundays, I usually don't get home till like 5 or 6 o'clock. And if that's the case, a lot of time and if the Cowboys are a late game and I'm wanting to watch, they'll be like, hey, all right, let's get some pizza or something, like just comfort food, relax and watch. So that's the thing about living in Virginia Beach area, Chesapeake. There's so much more. Whereas if you're back home in Potsdam, it's like, what you like, and there's really not a ton of options. So it's like, yeah, you're going to get a Sergi's Pizza, you're going to get wings from Duff's, or you're going to get a direct sub. Whereas here, there's like 8 different places you can go for a sub, or 20 different places you go for pizza or wings. So there's not any favorites here quite yet in terms of absolute, like, yeah, that's where we're going every week. Usually we'll kind of like, hey, what's something new that we can try out if we're going to go out and get something. So
yeah. I was home in Fort Covington this past Thursday night. So you had the Giants game, and then obviously you had the final presidential debate, and I was hanging with my dad.
Your old man must have been fired up.
Oh, I let me see if I don't know if I can curse on this. Maybe I'll tell you afterwards. But man, yeah, when Evan Ingram dropped that pass, it was a perfect pass from Danny Dimes. How the hell did he drop that? Bullshit! There's more. There was more.
I believe it.
But it was funny. But it was funny. It was getting towards. I was working. I think my last appointment ended around 7, and he's like, "What do you want to get to eat?" And I'm like, and like you just said, I'm like, well, one, it's COVID, so a lot of places aren't open, and two, there really aren't too many options. So I was like, I guess we'll get a pizza.
Yeah.
So
We don't have carte blanche up in the fort, up in the resort.
Right. You're kind of forced into your favorites. Although I do look forward to it. So I guess we'll end. Will, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know we tried to do it a few weeks back, and I slacked. As I said last week, Red cut my pay to do this thing as the commissioner. So it's now just on me to just have the wherewithal and energy.
Heavy lies the crown of that commissioner.
That's true. That's true. Any prediction with the upcoming presidential race? What do you think is going to happen there?
I mean, I really don't. It's crazy, honestly. I don't have any expectation. I think a lot of people 4 years ago didn't have any expectation that Trump was going to win. It's kind of a bit of a silent majority thing. A lot of people came out of the woodwork that aren't necessarily outspoken, but were sick of what had been going on for 8 years, and they might not even now. I mean, you have the extreme to the right and the left that are thumping their chests, but more often than not, it's the people that kind of keep to themselves are the ones that decide this election. I don't think people necessarily expected that 4 years ago, but it's a pendulum. You know what I mean? It swings back and forth. You get sick of one extreme, and then there's a big pushback from the other side to go the other way. So this is probably the most interesting election because of all this COVID stuff. If that doesn't happen the way the economy was rolling, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of people that are disheartened by all of this, that unemployment and illness and things being shut down at such a crazy time. It's so hard to believe if you had told us, last March, like, yeah, we're still going to be messing around with this shit in October, November, December. Like, when's it end? It is pretty crazy. So I have no idea what to expect, honestly. It is such a wild time.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't think you're dodging the question. I agree. I couldn't even tell you what I expect to happen.
I wouldn't gamble on it. If someone said, "Do you want to bet on it?" Like I just wouldn't know where to put the money. You know what I mean? And I'm kind of curious to see like what gambling sites. Obviously, there's a ton of sites that do odds on these kind of things. I'm kind of curious to see what the line is on the election right now. Mm-hmm. So before you go, I do want to let you know. I am down for 3 squares this Thursday for the Real Men Wear Pink Challenge. I know you were running that promotion the other day. Anyone watching this should donate some money to Marky. I've done it before in the past, and it's obviously to a good cause. And so when I get off, I'm going to send you some money, and hopefully make the Thursday game a little more interesting, because a lot of them aren't quite as interesting. So.
Well, I don't know. Then I really appreciate this. I've been talking to a lot of people. As you know, I've done this for a few years, and this year, everywhere across the country, we're doing pretty well as a group, but it's been obviously far more difficult to raise money. Obviously, I understand a lot of people are out of work and financially maybe aren't in a spot to donate as they were in the past. And then just beyond that, not being able to have some of the events. And I used to do a wing fest, at a bunch of places in town, and that's easy to get, hundreds of people to come out and do that. So trying to come up with new ways. And I'm going to bring it back out. A couple of years ago on Halloween, I dressed up as the Pink Panther.
Yeah.
To announce a giveaway to the mayor. And so when I got to the point, I'm like, what else can I do that maybe would generate some sort of interest? And I saw that the Panthers played on the last Thursday in October. I was like, perfect. So don't be surprised to see me return as the Pink Panther this coming week. But as always, I appreciate your support. Obviously, for those that don't know, I'm Will's daughter Tessa's godfather, which is also a tremendous honor. So hopefully she had a nice, delicious lunch here today, and is
actually just about to hear. Come here, kiddo. I want to say.
Oh, bring her over. This is great. Her debut on the fantasy preview.
Come here, kiddo. He is ready to eat.
Here today.
Who is that?
Hey.
Can you say hi? Can you say hi?
Can you say
hi? Yeah. Hi.
Good to see ya.
Hi. All right, everybody. Good luck today.
Well, thanks so much, Will. Amy, good hearing your voice there. And hopefully we'll see you guys soon. Have a great week, and best of luck today, Will, in your matchup.
You too. Take care, bud.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.
Bye. What do you want for lunch? You want some chicken? You want some
Okay, folks, so that wraps it up. What a great conversation with Will. I'm so glad that we've had the opportunity to get a couple of guests here these last few weeks. So we've had Will, we've had Batter obviously last week, we've had Eric, and I would love to have each and every one of you come on. I love hearing your thoughts on fantasy football, your thoughts on football life in general. And I think the league likes it because, as Will mentioned, we're a very close group. Even though a lot of us don't know each other, but I think through this whole league, we've become all very good friends. So thanks again for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I enjoy doing this each and every week. And certainly one of these weeks, perhaps if you're not totally comfortable coming on your own, we can get a panel, maybe get 2 or 3 guests and really have some fun. So from all of us here at the assistant to the commissioner's office, remember to wear pink. If you can, donate either to the football pool coming up this week. We also have some other local giveaways if that's more your style. Have a great week. Best of luck, and we will catch you back here